All right, let's talk about a term that made a huge leap from the world of video games into the, well, much harsher reality of American life. We're talking about the kill line.
So if you've ever played a game like World of Warcraft, you know exactly what this is. You've been fighting this giant boss, their health bar is finally in the red, below 20%, and boom, a special ability lights up. It's called Execute, and it lets you finish the fight right then and there. It's a reward, really, for pushing your enemy to the brink.
But here's the twist. What happens when that mechanic, that moment of triumph in a game, becomes a metaphor for real life? That's what we're digging into. How did a term for a victory lap become the name for a sudden, catastrophic, and often permanent personal collapse?
To really get it, you have to understand that the kill line isn't just one bad thing happening. Nope, it's a process. It's a brutal chain reaction that some have started calling the systemic combo, and it's designed to be almost impossible to escape. Let's break down how it works.
Okay, so here's the textbook definition for you. The kill line is that point of no return. When you're above it, you're juggling, you're handling life's curveballs. But the moment you slip below it, everything changes. The very systems we have, credit, housing, jobs, they start to actively work against you, one after another, in this devastating domino effect.
And this just lays it out perfectly. It's like a 4-hit combo in a fighting game. Hit 1 is the trigger. Something small, a car repair, an unexpected doctor's visit. Not a catastrophe on its own. But then comes hit 2, lockdown. You can't pay that bill right away, so your credit score gets slammed. That sets up hit 3, damage. With a bad score, you're denied a new apartment, or maybe you're even evicted. And that leads to the final blow, the execute. No stable address means you can't keep your job. And just like that, the system's got you. Game over.
That whole sequence raises a pretty terrifying question. If the trigger can be something so small, then how many people are actually living right on the edge of that cliff? How many of us are vulnerable to that one-hit kill?
Now, what's really eye-opening here is that second category, ALICE. That stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained Employed. These are the folks who are working, often more than one job, but they're still just one paycheck away from disaster. So when you add the 13% officially in poverty to the 29% who are ALICE, you're looking at 42% of all American households. 42% are basically walking that tightrope every single day.
And for a huge chunk of them, this is the magic number, $400. According to the Federal Reserve, 37% of all American adults couldn't cover an unexpected $400 expense without going into debt or selling something they own. That's it. That's the razor-thin margin between staying afloat and triggering that whole systemic combo we just walked through.
But here's the thing. It's not just about random bad luck. The system itself has these, traps, specific mechanics that make that downward spiral incredibly fast and incredibly hard to pull out of. Let's look at 3 of the biggest ones.
First up, the medical debt trap. This is a big one. Check out these numbers. 41% of U.S. adults have medical debt. But here's the part that'll blow your mind. Of those people struggling with medical bills, a full 80% of them have health insurance. So that safety net you think you have, it's just not working for millions of people.
And this is exactly what it looks like for a real person. You take a story like George's, a forklift driver. The huge bill, even with insurance, was the trigger. The destroyed credit score, that's the lockdown. And then being blocked from getting an apartment or a loan to retrain, that's the damage. It slams the door shut on any path to recovery.
And then you have something called the benefits cliff, it's just one of the most backward things you can imagine. Look at this example. A single parent gets a 50-cent an hour raise. Good news, right? She's working hard, getting ahead. Well, that tiny raise, just over $1,000 a year, pushes her over an income threshold. And just like that, she loses about $15,000 in benefits, like food and housing aid. So by getting a raise, she ends up over $14,000 poorer. The system literally punishes her for trying to improve her life. It makes no sense.
And the glue holding all these traps together? It's the credit score. See, it's not just about getting a car loan anymore. It's become this kind of digital padlock on society. A bad score, which can happen just from one medical bill you couldn't pay, can stop you from renting an apartment or even from getting hired for a job. It's a perfect catch-22. You can't get a job because your credit is bad from not paying your bills, but you can't pay your bills without a job.
So what happens when these traps actually spring? What does it look like in the real world when someone falls below that kill line? What's on the game over screen?
Well, first, let's talk about something basic, food.
You might see something called the Global Hunger Index and think, oh, the US is fine, but that index is really for comparing developing nations. The actual reality, right here at home, according to the USDA, is that 1 in every 5 children lives in a home where they don't know for sure where their next meal is coming from.
Next up, losing your home. This is the official count of people experiencing homelessness on just one single night in early 2024. It's an all-time high, and it's up 18% from the year before. This is the execute phase of that combo, playing out on a massive national scale.
And stories like Bob Garrick's really show you who's being hit by this. It's not who you might think. We're talking about former tech support workers, people who were solidly middle class until one single trigger, for him it was a stroke, and the whole house of cards came down.
And if there's a final boss in this horrifying real-life game, if there's a place that shows what total system failure looks like, it might be Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia.
Kensington is ground zero. It's the heart of the opioid crisis, and it's being made so much worse by a new drug called Tranq. It's an animal tranquilizer that literally causes people's flesh to rot. And some critics argue that places like this are basically a strategy of containment. The idea isn't to help people, it's just to wall them off from the rest of society, to keep the problem out of sight, out of mind.
So all this brings us to the biggest question of all. Is the kill line an accident? Is it just a bug in the system? Or is it actually a feature of the game's design, rooted in a much older, deeper idea?
It's been argued that it's rooted in this philosophy of social Darwinism, this old idea of survival of the fittest but applied to people in society. And when that's your philosophy, you create policies that punish people for struggling. A perfect example is asset limits for welfare. In many places, you're legally barred from getting help if you have more than, say, $2,000 in savings. Think about that. The system itself prevents the poor from ever building the exact emergency fund that might save them from falling off the cliff.
And that really brings us to the heart of it. The real problem isn't just poverty, it's the total lack of a buffer zone. For almost half the entire country, the system has zero fault tolerance. There's no gentle slope, it's just a sheer cliff. One mistake, one piece of bad luck, one unexpected $400 bill, and it can be game over.
So, I guess that leaves us with one final thought. When a system is built this way, where the fall is so steep and the penalty is so final, have we really built a safety net to catch people? Or have we built a trap designed to make sure that once you fall, you can never get back up?